Have you ever noticed the more that you try to let something go, the more you're still holding on to it or maybe even clinging to it? Why does that happen? And more importantly, what does that action actually create over time? How does it shape you and shape your life? So there's a moment, right, when something's not going the way you want it to go, and you recognize that you've got this tension going on, and you tell yourself, I just need to surrender, right? I just need to let it go. And it doesn't feel freeing. It feels like you're actually forcing yourself to accept something you don't actually agree with, right? So most people either keep pushing, or they go quiet, but they don't ever really let it go. And neither one of those settles anything, right? And I want to address the idea of surrender in the first place, because we have in our Western culture, in our colonized culture, have this idea of giving up, of the white flag, of laying down and letting anything happen, right? And that's not what we're talking about here. When we're talking about surrender, I'm actually speaking to letting things be, seeing what is and letting it be. And that doesn't mean that you become passive at all. And I'm going to get into that a little further, is to how you can be active in circumstances that you don't have control over. So if we come back to the idea of surrendering, as most people think of it, what most folks think is that it has a particular sequence. Like, if I surrender, things will resolve. Or if I let go, I'll feel peaceful. Yeah. Or if I stop pushing at this, then something's going to open up, right? They have this if-then type of thinking, and we've just acquired that over time. But that's not what's actually happening. So, hi, I'm Leezá Steinorf, and I work with people who have chosen to no longer perform their way through life, who are choosing to live from something real instead, and I help guide them on their paths, give them tools, and encourage them along the way. So, from that place of choosing what's real and what's nourishing to us, this is what I see with people. They aren't actually struggling with the situations. What they're struggling with is the fact that it's even happening. Okay, so hang with me here, because this is kind of interesting. So let's say something in your life isn't shifting or isn't going the way you want it to. Think of a relationship, friendship, personal, romantic, business-wise, or a decision that keeps pushing at you that you have to make. Maybe you don't want to, but it's there. Or something that it won't go away. It just keeps showing up and showing up. And you keep circling it, going around and around, and you're thinking it through, and you talk about it, and you journal about it, and you're trying to make decisions, and you do pros and cons and all of this, trying to land somewhere clean with the situation, right? But underneath all of that, there's actually a tension. There's this quiet holding, and that's not rare. It shows up everywhere. All of my clients come with this at one point or another, whether they are executives or they're private individuals in my coaching. So what's actually holding that tension is not the situation. It's the person's need to control the situation because it's not how they want it, or their believed need that it has to resolve a certain way, or that it should mean something about them or for them, right? Or they simply want it to go away. It's not how they imagined how things should be. So sometimes what looks like letting go is just giving up in a quieter form, right? I know I've had this in situations with relationships where it's like, oh, I'll just let it go. And I keep ruminating. It's like, if this happened and if that happened. So I haven't really let it go. I've just turned down the volume. And sometimes what looks like processing is just staying in the situation longer than necessary, and you're just continuing to chew it through. So let's come back and think about in your own life of a situation, just one, where you can feel this showing up, right? Where you keep revisiting something again and again, or where you're trying to land it just right, getting the circumstances right or your actions right, or where you keep telling yourself, you just gotta let it go. You just gotta let it go. But you don't. I'm gonna give you an example. I had a situation recently that so exemplifies this. Not an easy one either. I had to sell my house due to a huge change in our HOA. And I didn't want to sell my house. I love my home. And there it was. I had no control over the situation. And so it was a situation I did not want, and yet I had to deal with it. And I struggled. I stomped my foot and I shook my fist and I had a whole big tantrum about it. Okay? And then I realized exactly what I'm sharing with you, that I was arguing with the reality of the situation, right? The circumstances were so. I had no control over those. So when I found a way to be with the situation, it wasn't even accepting, it wasn't surrendering, it was like, oh, it was recognizing, oh, that's what is, right? When I found a way to be with what was, I did not feel like I wasn't suddenly excited about selling my home, but the tension was gone, right? That feeling of urgency, like I have to do something, I have to control this, it was totally gone, right? I didn't have that sense anymore. It dissolved. So maybe it's not about surrender. Maybe it's about being with what's actually here without trying to turn it into something else. Yeah. And then only taking action on what's yours to move, what's in your hands to impact, right? In that situation, I had no control over that larger picture at all. And I tried, trust me. But I had control over the timing, and I found a really good realtor whom I trusted and we collaborated well. I determined the price and the conditions of the sale, like what I could impact, what I could influence, what was in my hands. I was intentional about that. So that's really what is within our control. And the rest of it simply was. Yeah. And taking action on what is in our control, I'm going to suggest balances out or is a trade-off for that tension of not really wanting the situation as it is. Okay, so it doesn't make things easier, but it removes that extra friction. And what's left is usually a lot more honest. I'm going to say it's cleaner, right? Because you're dealing with what is. So I'm going to ask you a question for you to consider. What's something in your life, a circumstance, a relationship decision that you're trying to control, that even if it's subtle, that you're just not letting be as it is? And the second question is, what parts of that are not actually yours? What parts of that situation are not yours to impact? You have no control over. You can't influence. And see if just separating those out is a useful practice for you. Because there's a difference between letting something be there and trying to make it either go away or be a certain way. The first one creates space, and the other one literally just keeps us stuck inside the situation. Okay, so if this gave you something to think about, if you appreciated a perspective, go ahead and like it. And I invite you to stay here with me on the channel and subscribe if you want to know when other clips drop, because we're not talking about surrendering your life. We're not talking about giving up, just the opposite. We're talking about meeting your life as it is clearly so that you can stop fighting what's already there and start breathing and thriving and designing a life that you want to live. All right? Thanks for listening. Glad you were here. Be well. Until next time.